quick tips and tricks that is going to help you crack the board exam, right? So these are tips that was going to help you get best in your physics examination, right? So I will try to share with you some of the strategies that you should follow to crack so that you can get the best in your board exams. So let's try it. So to achieve mastery in physics, it's very important that you have a hands-on practice, because if you don't practice properly, right, if there is no proper practice along with studying for the theoretical portion, so that's not going to help you get a full understanding of the concepts. So for that, for effective study, you have to practice what you are studying. There are numericals across all chapters. Every chapter is important. Based on that, you should practice it. So I'll try to share with you some important tips so that you can prepare accordingly and get the best. Okay, now going ahead further. So from here, what we get, you should go through the exam pattern and the syllabus in completely, right? So there should be a complete thorough understanding about the exam pattern that you are going to follow along with the syllabus that you have. So for that, you should analyze the previous year board patterns to understand how exactly the questions have been asked. What is the trend of asking question? Which is the chapter, from which particular chapter, what are the different type of questions that are generally going to be asked, right? So this is the pattern that you should be following. Then, apart from that, you should also check the contents of the syllabus. That is, are you clear about what all topics are going to be covered, or is there something that you have not really covered? So you should be aware of the contents of the syllabus, which is going to help you to figure out what are the topics that are incorporated in the subjects, including physics. Okay. Then it's very important for important for us to keep track of the problem solving speed, because if you exceed your time and if you're not able to complete the complete set of problems in time, you'll not be able to get the complete marks, right? I'll try to tell you what are the steps that you should take so that you are able to complete and you also are left with ample amount of time so that you don't have to hurry up. Now, to do this, it should not come as a surprise that when you are just going to get the paper, obviously some questions will sound something different, but majority of the questions should be something that you should know. So for that, you should practice as many times as possible whatever are the papers that CBSE allocates, or which are the kind of sample papers from the CBSE. So as per this latest CBSE 12th exam pattern, you should try to solve as many questions as many times as possible. More are the practice, better it will be. Now, let's try to now understand what is the board pattern. How exactly is the board pattern going to be? So, to start with, there is something like competency-based question. So these are HOTS type of question. That is the higher order thinking skill question, right? Now, in this higher order thinking skill question, this is going to carry a weightage of 20%, roughly around 20%, where you'll be given cases, right? Where you'll be given different skills to understand and identify what the question is asking. If you just identify what is it being asked, then you do not have to worry, because then the question framing and the type of answers that you have to do is not going to be difficult. It's just to identify what is being asked. That's the most important thing. Apart from that, there are going to be some tricky questions, some value-based questions, which is going to whose answer is going to depend upon you, how exactly you answer it, right? Apart from that, there are lower order thinking skill questions. So these will be objective type questions. I'll give you a breakup also. What are the lots type of questions? So objective type questions also have something like one word answers. There are going to be MCQs. There are going to be assertion reasoning questions also, right? Along with that, the middle order thinking skills, which are the short and the long answer type questions. So that will carry a weightage of roughly 50%. So this is the general breakup of the different type of questions that you should expect. Now, if you go further, there are 33 odd questions for 70 marks that's going to be there, because 30 marks will be coming from your practicals and other internal tests that you have, including portfolio and other things that you would have done, right? Here, the first section, which is a section A, which will have 12 MCQs plus 4 assertion reasoning questions, total 16, each carrying 1 mark, total 16 marks. Section B will be the first type of short answer questions. Each of them will carry 2 marks, and there are 5 of them. There are going to be internal choices also in them. The second short answer type questions, there will be 7 of them, each carrying 3 marks, so total 21 marks. Then if you go to the case-based question, so case-based question where it's going to be a small, simple paragraph that will be given. And based on that paragraph, you'll have to answer the questions. So it's not going to be very difficult, very tricky. It's just that you need to identify what is being asked. Finally, you will have the long answer type questions. There are 3 of them, and each of them is going to carry 5 marks. So it's very easy to crack at least 70 marks out of, sorry, at least 60 marks out of 70, right? Because even if you crack the case-based question, the short answer questions, along with that, you have the 16 marks of the objective. That is very easy to do it. Where you can falter or where you can lose marks are the long answer type question. Even there, you should be in a position to do at least 2 out of the 3, right? Now, since there are multiple sections that you have, which will have multiple questions in it, right? So it is necessary for you to understand that the board does not prescribe to you that you have to follow a particular order, right? Having said that, if there is one question having multiple parts, all those parts should be done together. But it does not mandate that you have to do right from a serial order. You do 1, 2, 3, 4, all together, not necessary. You should read the paper. You should spend the first 15 minutes that will be given exclusively for reading it, right? So read that paper thoroughly, mark out the questions which are going to be difficult, which are going to be easy. You know for that, for sure, what is the answer. So start with that and then move on to the questions which are slightly difficult. You keep so as in a way that is going to rule out basically in the first 1.5 hours of the paper, you should be able to do away with majority of the objective, short answer one, short answer type one, short answer type two, and if possible some case based, so that you are left with a large amount of time for the long answer questions, right? So 15 marks question, which is roughly you can say 1/4 of the paper, so you can keep nearly an hour for that, and the remaining time you should be able to finish off the complete remaining paper, right? Ideally that should be the scenario. You should practice so many mock papers in such a way, in a timed manner, such that you should have at least 20-25 minutes left so that you can revise whatever solutions you have done. There are always something that we get if we do the revision. Now, if we talk about further, so going ahead here, we have the chapters. So if we talk about electrostatics, that is the first unit that we have. So electrostatics, current, electricity together carries a weightage of 16 marks. So it's a very important unit. Then magnetic effects of current, electromagnetic induction. This together carries 17 marks. So there are going to be good long answer questions from electromagnetic induction and alternating current for sure. There are going to be numericals from the moving charges and magnetism and current, electricity for sure. So these are chapters that you have to work on from the numerical and the theoretical portion perspective. Then if we go ahead, the next part is the electromagnetic waves and the optics. So this section has the maximum weightage, you can see. First section of electrostatics and so on, that carried a weightage of 16. Then the magnetism and electromagnetic carried a weightage of 17. This carries a weightage of 18, right? And then you have a very, very scoring portion of dual nature of radiation and atom and nuclei. That is the modern physics portion, carrying 12 marks. Electronic devices, you can keep it at the end because it carries a weightage of roughly around 7 marks. Okay, so you now understand what are the different weightages. So you have to focus according to it. So the next thing is that you need to focus on the core concepts. That is, what exactly are the fundamental physics concepts? What are the important theories and the formulae that you have to apply, correct? Then you have to figure out not all the theories are going to be asked, not all the concepts are going to be asked. You have to figure out what are the commonly asked questions from the board perspective, correct? Physics has numerical questions, as I said some time back also. So if you do not practice it, practice the numericals, you will not be able to crack it. So you have to practice as many numericals as possible. So more you practice different variety of questions that you practice, better it is. Don't see that, okay, this is out of syllabus, I'm not going to do it. At least practice. If they're related questions, practice it out. It's not, more is the learning, it's not going to go anywhere waste. Apart from that, a proper study timetable is very important. So that's going to make your preparation very easy. So you break down your day that, okay, I have to study today for physics, particular chapter in physics. Then I have to study for chemistry. I have to study for maths or bio. Then I have to study for computers, English or whatever. Right. So every subject, it is very important that how much time you're devoting. If for an easier chapter you're devoting more time, that's not going to be helpful. For a chapter which is lesser in weightage, if you're devoting more time, it's not going to be helpful, because just because you know about that, there is no point in devoting more time. You should devote more time to that thing which you're not clear with and it has a higher weightage. So once you are devoting each timetable, once you have made a proper timetable and you have devoted equal time for each subject, it's going to be, if you follow that, it's going to give a better confidence to you. Then studying at a constant pace is better than aggressive study. Reason being, if you study aggressively, after some time you're going to lose the zeal, lose the time to do it. You should actually focus more on the weaker subject where you need to put in more efforts. And then, so it has to be methodical, it has to be more, you can say, more detail oriented. Which is it that you know that you are weak in? Which is the topic that you know that you're strong in? So something that you're strong in, you can just keep it for a later time. Something that you're weak in, you should keep it for a more amount of time. Then it is not that if you practice something today, you feel that you're done with. No, you should continuously practice it, right? If you don't practice it, obviously you're going to lose the interest, lose the IQ that is behind it. You have to keep practicing. So try to practice as many different type of questions from all the concepts. If you feel that your your level of preparation is done, you're completely thorough with it, then start putting in your efforts to solving the questions. Do not look into the answer, start solving. Judge yourself, figure out how much did you score. Mark yourself thoroughly. Do not give extra marks. Try to cut marks as much as possible so that you know which is the point area that you have to work on. Practice numericals and the derivations. CBSE will be asking you multiple derivations. So if we talk about optics, there is going to be derivation of the mirror formula, lens formula, that is possible. If you talk from the electrostatics part, you will have derivation related with the Gauss theorem for the different objects that you have. If we talk about for magnetism, solenoid, toroid, what is the magnetic field that happens? What are the different, for the case from the electromagnetic induction part, what exactly is the EMF that you get, the motional EMF that you get, and so on. Then, based on this, once you're doing it, once you're preparing it for the last moment, start making notes. Start making short notes, which is going to help you. Keep it handy, right? Always, it's going to always help you in learning hard things easily, right? After that, write the names, rules, formulae, etc. on it, so that you can always go back and revise, because everyone's way of learning is different, everyone's way of understanding is different. So if you keep the different rules, names, etc. separately in a piece of paper, that's going to definitely help you. And always keep an eye on them. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you, like for example, when I was preparing for IIT and for my board examination, where I used to sleep, the first thing I wanted to see are the formulae, the different formulae for integration, the different formulae for trigonometric relations, and so on. So what I had done is that just above my bed, I had put up all those formulae. I had put up a periodic table. So the first thing that I look at when I'm getting up, similarly, the last thing that I see before I go off to sleep is just in front of me. You should be surrounded by those things at least for 1 month, 1.5 months, till your board exams are done. So always keep an eye on them. Just keep preparing as much as possible. Along with that, make use of mind maps to revise the concepts. So mind maps is going to help you. The value of the mind maps. Mind maps is going to give you a mind map. So it gives you a it's a map that what all the formula are related, how they are related, what are the different things that are there. So it gives you the complete concepts in one glance, right? So that is what is the mind map. That is the use of the mind map that we have. Then the practical examples, because in the case-based questions it's going to be filled with the real world examples, right? So better are the real world examples, better a real world example that you take it and you apply it, it's going to help you remember the things. So it's always better to use practical examples. So relate the theoretical concepts that you have. For example, if you're trying to understand electrostatics, try to see how it can be related when you try to comb your hair, dry hair, it produces sparks. Or for example, if you have oil in the hair and you take the comb close to small pieces of paper, they get stuck, right? So that's the force of attraction that exists. So these are concepts that you relate, theoretical concepts that you can relate, which is going to help you basically. Then it's very important that you study strategically. So like we have allocated the time based on the weightage of the examination. You should something that you already know of. For example, let's say I know of optics very thoroughly. I will prefer to study that more. That's not going to help. If I don't know electrostatics, I should actually be focusing more time on electrostatics. You should also know, understand that majority of the students, if I ask, if you define what is a charge, majority of the students say that charges are of two types. No, we did not discuss, we did not say that what are the types of charges. If I say that what is a charge, it's a fundamental quantity, right? It's a fundamental quantity. Because of it, it experiences a force. So for that, you need to understand the definition of charge. What does it mean? The basic concepts is needed. Having said that, you have to prioritize the weaker areas. You have to give more time to the weaker areas. So, but such that you do not forget the ones which you, in which you are stronger in. Should never neglect that. That is also something that you have to keep focusing on for sure. So you cannot neglect the stronger ones. Going ahead further, once you have allocated and gone ahead with this thing, usually the students do not keep this point in mind and they try to exceed the word limit in the answer sheet, right? There is always a marking scheme that is given. The examiners are also going to mark you based on the number of words. That if you are exceeding that, remember that it's only going to harm you. It means because examiners are going to deduct marks because you are exceeding the word limit in the answer sheet. If it is required to write relevant information, exaggeration can also lead to loss of marks, right? Point. So to take care of that, if it's a 5-mark question, right? Case-based questions are 4 mark and they're straightforward, so do not have to exaggerate there. If you're talking about something like a long answer question, right? So for a long answer question, just write it point wise. So there are 5 points, write 5 points and elaborate those 5 points, right? There's no point in writing an essay out of it. It should always be to the point, and number of words is very important. So you should know how many words or how many lines does it take, let's say for a 60 words, for 100 words, how many lines you need to write. So for that, best thing is that you write down the important point and then elaborate on that so that you do not exceed the word limit. You must follow the proper technique of writing answers. So see, if you try to write down the answer for the first time in your board examination, you'll always falter. So it's better that you practice it beforehand, before you go for your final exams, before you go for your board exams. So if you have not given you any pre-board exams in your school, you should try to take up mock exams, sit for 3 hours and try to finish off the papers. See how much did you score, which are the areas that you did not score, which are the areas that are good. So if they're good, good. If they're not good, then that is where you need to work on. So that is the proper technique you have to see. And you have to allocate, you have to mark yourself accordingly. As I said initially also, you have to make use of the first 15 minutes, because that is the time that is allocated to you for you to read. It is not for answering questions. So it's better that you read, you make use of that time and read the paper. Now, even after doing this, you're not able to follow. For example, for myself, I never could follow magnetism. Till I got into IIT, I never could follow magnetism. So you should never hesitate in seeking help from teachers, peers, online resources. Having said that, online resources, that may be a possibility that it may be wrong. Whatever concept is given or whatever thing is given, it may not be completely correct. So you should not cross check with others, your teachers, your friends, right? But always do that. Don't get stuck up. You'd be losing time. Utilize textbooks, reference material, online resources for your understanding. If you're using NCRT, good. But if NCRT is very concise, so you have other alternate textbooks, help textbooks, ABC, you have Oswald textbooks. So these are the textbooks which you should read if you're not able to understand a concept. Try to go through these because you should always be able to help. The online resources are always going to help you and supplement your understanding. If possible, perform practical experiments to reinforce. So if you can go to your school, do it in your lab, figure out how exactly the ray diagrams are obtained. So try to do those experiments. Majority of the experiments you would have done in your experiments also, right? Practical exams also you would have given. So there are questions which will be asked from the practical exams also. So this is going to enhance your understanding in of experimental setups and the procedures. Collaborate with your classmates in study groups. Try to discuss questions. What can be the possible question that you would be expecting? So you can get to know from others. You can also share your knowledge. Discussing with others is going to give you a different perspective. Okay, this can also be the way of explaining the answer. Because better it is that you discuss, more is it you are going to learn. Now, we have understood that we should be studying and we should be doing this, that, and so on. But we are all humans, right? If you go at a stretch and continuously study, it's not going to help at all, right? It's only going to make you frustrated that I've been sitting for so long, still I'm not able to understand, still I'm not able to learn this thing. So it's always better that you take breaks. Take small breaks in between, walk around, move around someplace. Maybe you can do some jumps, do some yoga, do some meditation, come back again. So it's going to help you stay focused and fit, right? So these are the important things. And most importantly is time management. So you have to manage your time during exams. You have to allocate time wisely for each section of the paper, as I mentioned. If you don't do that, it's not going to help you. You'll never be able to finish off your paper. So what can we conclude from this? So you should remember that mastering physics is a gradual process. It doesn't happen on a day. You have to be completely consistent in your efforts, how exactly you are practicing. Every day you should allocate an hour or two for physics, similarly an hour or two for maths, and similarly an hour or two for chemistry, and so on. This is something that you have to put in efforts. More effort you do put in right now, it's only going to help you. No learning is going to be wasted, right? Most importantly, don't hesitate to ask for help if you encounter difficulties. You can ask us at Ask Guidance. You can take help of your teachers. You can take help of your resources or textbooks, everything. But make the best out of it. So good luck with your exam preparation. Thank you.